I'm going to get started with the team that was our only loss from last week, but I still think this is the last opportunity to get a good number on Kent's. They're playing against Miami of Ohio as a 6-point favorite under that key number of 7. And they're coming off this game. I mentioned it at the top. 736 total yards against Ohio. They lose the turnover battle 2-0. They put the ball on the turf 6 times. I just don't see Miami of Ohio getting that kind of fumble luck in a game like this. And when you look at the Red Hawks with Brett Gabbert, on the shelf probably for the rest of the season, Avion Smith is a great runner. He carved up the Buffalo defense on the ground, but the kid can't pass. He's completing 50% of his passes this year, 36.8 QBR, takes a lot of sacks. So I do think you can see some havoc plays from a Kent State defense under Jeremiah Johnson that has improved. We've talked a lot about him in the last couple of weeks coming off of that ridiculous non-conference slate where they played 3 top 7 offenses nationally. And I don't know. I just look at this as a positive regression moment. Beyond the turnovers, they were in the red zone twice in the game against Ohio. They got to the Ohio 11. They took a sack. They took a penalty. They punted. Then they get to the Ohio 13, strip sack. They lose the ball to a fumble. So I think all of this is kind of hiding the fact that this is the best offense in the MAC against a backup quarterback. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to stick with the Golden Flashes laying under a touchdown here. What are your thoughts on Schlee and Marquez Cooper maybe getting it done, holding on to the football a little bit better this week?
Yeah, I like it. Like you said, they should have blown the doors off them last week, and I think we should have swept the board. We were a couple fumbles away from sweeping the board, so I like it. I like going back to them too.
All right, best bet. What are you pairing up here in week 6?
It's always a little scary laying double digits with the Service Academy, but I'm going to lay 10 with Air Force at Utah State. Utah State's bad. Like, they're really bad. They're 1-4. Their only win being an 11-point victory at home against UConn. Although, to be fair, it does look a little better now. UConn, don't let them get hot. It goes from bad to worse, though. Logan Bonner's out for the season. Cooper Legas takes over as the starter. And while he's much more mobile than Bonner, he can't really throw. He's completing just 54% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. He had 20 rushing attempts last week against BYU, but only went for 52 yards. Like, that's kind of hard to do from a quarterback perspective, right? Because half the time, like, you usually get free and like you just walk for 20 yards. And Peyton Manning used to do that. Like 50 yards on 20 attempts is bad. Utah State, they're 112th in the country in success rate on offense, 128th in explosiveness, 119th in finishing drives. They can't do anything right. They're 28th in the nation in rushing rate, and then just 114th in success rate. They run the ball a ton and can't run it well. And then on the other side of the ball, Air Force is 1st in the country in rushing rate, and they're 8th in the country in success rate. So they do it well. They're 3rd in the nation in yards per carry, which is ridiculous for a Service Academy. They average 6.3 yards per carry, and they run it every play. So, normally with these Service Academies, you'll have them be 1st in rush rate. And, when you look at yards per game, it's like, yeah, of course they run for 300 yards per game. That's all they do. But then their success rates are usually in like the 50s, 6.3 yards per carry for a team that runs it every play is absurd. And when they do pass, no one's expecting it. So they lead the country in passing explosiveness because every time they throw the ball, it goes for a huge chunk. Utah State's defense is 113th in the nation. They're allowing 4.7 yards per carry. They also sit 110th in passing explosiveness allowed. Utah State's lost 4 straight games by at least 10 points, including a 28-point loss to FCS Weber State. I think Air Force just runs it down the throat. When you got a team that, they won the Mountain West last year and how bad they've started, I don't want to use the word quit, but it's easy to think that they might. And now you bring in an Air Force team diving at your legs, running it down your throat. If there's ever a team you're going to quit against, it's going to be Air Force. I'll lay the 10 with the Falcons.
I agree wholeheartedly with your analysis there. You do not want to play a clinical Air Force triple option based on just all of the difficulties that Utah State has on both sides of the ball. And the efficiency element of it, I think it makes it far more likely that Air Force is going to be able to cover the number. I would probably play it up to 13.5. I always get a little squeamish, laying big numbers because you're not counting on explosive plays necessarily. But I do think Air Force is going to be able to pop some in the passing game because the only chance that Utah State has to slow this running game is to put 9 guys in the box. So I think there's going to be some one-on-one opportunities on the perimeter. And Daniels has proven in his career that he can, have those moments where he finds receivers downfield. So I like that a lot.